Right now, at this exact moment, you're being pulled by invisible forces that you probably don't even realize exist. Think about it for a second. What brought you here? What made you click on this video? What made you stop scrolling through endless content to land on these specific words being spoken to you right now? Here's the truth most people will never admit. Nothing in your life is random. Not the job you have, not the relationships you're in, not the struggles you're facing, and definitely not the fact that you're hearing this message right now. Every single thing that's happening to you is part of a pattern, a design that's been unfolding for years, maybe even decades. But here's where it gets interesting. Most people go through life completely blind to these patterns. They think they're just bouncing around randomly, reacting to whatever life throws at them. They blame their circumstances, their past, other people, bad luck, timing, the economy, their upbringing, anything and everything except the one thing that's actually controlling their reality. You want to know what that one thing is? It's the story they've been telling themselves about who they are and what's possible for them. And here's the kicker. Most people didn't even write that story. It was written for them by their parents, their teachers, their friends, society, social media, the news, random strangers who had opinions about their life. They've been living someone else's script and wondering why their life feels so out of control. But every once in a while, someone wakes up. They start to see the pattern. They realize that the story they've been living isn't actually theirs. And that's when everything changes. That's when they stop being a victim of their circumstances and start becoming the author of their own reality. Now I'm going to tell you something that might sound crazy, but stay with me. The fact that you're here right now, listening to these words, means you're already starting to wake up. Something inside you knows that there's more to life than what you've been experiencing. Something is calling you to step into a bigger version of yourself. And here's the thing about that calling, it doesn't come when you're comfortable. It doesn't come when everything is going perfectly. It comes when you're at a crossroads, when you're tired of the same old patterns, when you're ready to finally break free from whatever has been holding you back. Maybe you've been feeling stuck lately. Maybe you've been going through the motions, living the same day over and over again. Maybe you've been wondering if this is all there is. Maybe you've been asking yourself why some people seem to have it all figured out while you're still struggling with the same issues you've been dealing with for years. If any of that resonates with you, then you're exactly where you need to be. Because what I'm about to share with you isn't just information, it's a key that can unlock patterns in your life that you didn't even know existed. A key that can help you understand why certain things keep happening to you, and more importantly, how to change them. See, there's a difference between people who just survive life and people who actually thrive. The ones who thrive, they've figured out something that the rest of the world hasn't. They've learned to see the invisible forces that shape reality. They've learned to work with these forces instead of against them. And they've learned to rewrite their story in real time. But here's what's wild. These forces aren't mystical or magical. They're not reserved for special people or those born with some kind of gift. They're psychological, they're scientific, and they're available to anyone who knows how to access them. Think about the most successful people you know. Not just financially successful, but genuinely fulfilled. The ones who seem to attract opportunities effortlessly. The ones who have deep, meaningful relationships. The ones who face challenges but somehow always land on their feet. What do they have in common? It's not that they don't face problems. It's not that they were born lucky. It's that they understand something fundamental about how reality works. They understand that life isn't happening to them. It's happening through them. They understand that they're not victims of their circumstances. They're creators of their experience. And the crazy part is, once you see this, you can't unsee it. Once you understand how these invisible forces work, you start noticing them everywhere. You start recognizing patterns that were always there, but you never paid attention to. You start seeing opportunities that were always available, but you never noticed. You start attracting people and situations that align with who you're becoming instead of who you used to be. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This sounds too good to be true. This sounds like another one of those self-help messages that promises everything and delivers nothing. And honestly, if you're thinking that, I don't blame you. There's a lot of noise out there, a lot of people selling dreams without substance. But here's the difference. What I'm talking about isn't about positive thinking or visualization or manifesting. It's about understanding the actual mechanics of how your mind creates your reality. It's about recognizing the programs that are running in the background of your consciousness and learning how to rewrite them. Because here's the truth that no one talks about. Your mind is like a computer, and it's been programmed since the day you were born. Every experience you've had, every word that's been spoken to you, every belief you've absorbed, it's all been writing code in your mental software. And most of that code is outdated, limiting, and working against you. But just like any software, it can be updated, it can be rewritten, it can be completely transformed. And when you learn how to do that, when you learn how to become the programmer instead of the program, that's when your life starts to change in ways you never thought possible. The people who seem to have life figured out, they're not special, they're not chosen, they're not lucky. They've just learned to work with their mind instead of being controlled by it. They've learned to see the patterns instead of being trapped by them. They've learned to write their own story instead of living someone else's. And that's exactly what you can learn to do too. But it requires something that most people aren't willing to give. It requires you to question everything you think you know about yourself and your limitations. It requires you to be willing to let go of the identity you've been holding on to, even if it feels safe and familiar. Because here's the thing about transformation. It doesn't happen when you're comfortable. It doesn't happen when you're playing it safe. It happens when you're willing to step into the unknown, when you're willing to bet on yourself, even when you don't have all the answers. Most people wait for permission to change their life. They wait for the right moment, the right circumstances, the right opportunity. But the truth is, the right moment is always now. The right circumstances are always the ones you're in. The right opportunity is always the one in front of you. The question isn't whether you're ready. The question is whether you're willing. Are you willing to see what's really possible for your life? Are you willing to break free from the patterns that have been keeping you stuck? Are you willing to step into the person you know you're capable of becoming? Because if you are, if you're truly ready to understand how these invisible forces work and how to use them to create the life you actually want, then everything is about to change. Not someday, not when you get your life together, not when you figure it all out. Right now. The moment you decide to stop being a victim of your circumstances and start becoming the author of your reality, that's the moment everything shifts. That's the moment the invisible forces that have been working against you start working for you. That's the moment you stop living someone else's story and start writing your own. So the question is, are you ready to see what's really possible? Are you ready to understand the forces that have been shaping your reality? Are you ready to take control of your story and start creating the life you actually want? Because if you are, then this message found you for exactly the right reason. And what comes next is going to change everything. You see, most people think the hardest part is recognizing these patterns. They read about mental programming, they nod along, they get it intellectually. But here's where the real work begins. Understanding the game is just the first step. Actually changing it, that's where 99% of people give up. Because let me tell you something uncomfortable. Your current reality, even if it's not where you want to be, is familiar. It's predictable, and your brain loves predictability more than it loves growth. So even when you know better, even when you can see the invisible chains, your mind will fight you every step of the way. Think about it. How many times have you had a breakthrough moment? You read something, watched something, heard something that completely shifted your perspective. You felt that electric feeling of possibility. You could see your life differently. And then what happened? Within days, maybe hours, you are right back to the old patterns, the old thoughts, the old excuses. That's not weakness. That's programming doing exactly what it's designed to do. Maintain the status quo. Keep you safe, keep you small, keep you predictable. But here's what the people who actually transform their lives understand. Change doesn't happen in the big moments. It happens in the tiny, almost invisible moments when you catch yourself about to fall back into the old pattern and you choose differently. It's the moment when you're about to react to that triggering comment and instead you pause. It's when you're about to tell yourself that story about why you can't do something and you question it instead. It's when you're about to make a decision from fear and you ask yourself what you'd choose if you trusted yourself completely. These micro moments, they're where your real power lives, not in the grand gestures or the dramatic life overhauls. Those usually don't stick anyway. It's in the tiny decisions that seem insignificant but compound over time. Most people are waiting for the perfect moment to change, the perfect circumstances, the perfect mood, the perfect level of motivation. But here's the truth about transformation. It starts in the messiest, most imperfect moments. It starts when you're tired, when you're stressed, when you're completely over it. That's when choosing differently actually counts. Because anyone can make good choices when they feel good. Anyone can think positive thoughts when life is going well. But can you rewire your programming when everything feels chaotic? Can you step into your power when you're scared? Can you choose growth when comfort is calling your name? That's the real test, and that's where most people fail. They treat personal transformation like a hobby, something they do when they have time, when they're in the mood, when the stars align. But the people who actually change their lives, they treat it like survival, because in a way, it is. Your old programming isn't just limiting your potential, it's slowly killing the person you're meant to become. Every day you stay stuck in the same patterns, the same thoughts, the same reactions, you're reinforcing a version of yourself that's smaller than who you really are. And time is the one thing you can't get back. You can make more money, you can meet new people, you can learn new skills, but you can't reclaim the years you spent living someone else's story. You can't get back the opportunities you missed because you were too afraid to bet on yourself. So here's what I want you to understand. This isn't about becoming a different person. It's about becoming who you've always been underneath all the programming. It's about stripping away the layers of conditioning that have been covering up your true nature. You weren't born worried about what other people think. You weren't born doubting your abilities. You weren't born playing small. That's all learned behavior. And anything that's learned can be unlearned. But you have to be willing to feel uncomfortable. You have to be willing to question everything you think you know about yourself. You have to be willing to act differently, even when every fiber of your being is screaming at you to stay the same. The people who master this, who actually rewrite their reality, they develop what I call militant self-awareness. They become obsessed with catching themselves in the act of being unconscious. They turn transformation into a practice, not a destination. They understand that freedom isn't something you achieve once and then you're done. It's something you choose, moment by moment, thought by thought, decision by decision. And the more you choose it, the more natural it becomes. Because here's the beautiful thing about this process. The same brain that's been keeping you stuck, once you learn how to work with it instead of against it, becomes your greatest ally. It starts looking for evidence that you're powerful instead of evidence that you're limited. It starts creating opportunities instead of obstacles. Your whole world starts reflecting back this new version of you, not because the world changed, but because you changed what you're looking for. You changed what you're expecting. You changed what you're willing to accept. And that's when life gets interesting. That's when the magic starts happening. That's when you realize you were never actually stuck. You were just asleep. And now you're awake. So the question isn't whether you can change. The question is whether you will. Whether you'll do the work when it's hard. whether you'll keep going when you can't see the results yet, whether you'll trust the process even when your old programming is telling you it's impossible. Because the message that brought you here, it's not just information, it's an invitation to stop being a passenger in your own life and start being the driver, to stop reacting to your circumstances and start creating them. The choice is yours. It always has been. But now you know that, and knowing changes everything.